Brett, Tommy Rockcliffe, I know it's a concussion, so left with the doctors, but how's he looking at this stage in the week?
Pretty good. So at this point in time, I'll probably get the Robbie question as well. They're both on track and they've both pulled up okay. It's early, obviously, and there's a lot that they'll have to get through, which is no different to any other week, but I think as good as it can be for both at this stage.
Which is a major positive, clearly, given their importance in the side.
Yeah. We're trying to settle as much as we can. Clearly there's some game style stuff we're still playing around with, some positional play that we're trying to bed down, but they're the two types of guys that we can't afford to lose.
What do you have to tick off with a concussion protocol for those outside the club don't really understand it?
Yeah. My understanding is quite a few layers in terms of their pre-testing when they're in a good state of mind early in the year, to an in-game test that they need to reach a minimum standard. Other than that, it's over to the docs. They're clearly, and for very good reason, got a real eye for this sort of stuff now. That the in-game footage that the doctors are now supplied is high level. And it's a really sensitive issue. So we understand it as coaches better than we ever have. So any doubt, we know which way it's going to fall more often than not.
So Rocky's had a test today?
Not sure about today. He was tested at game. I haven't spoken to him since around testing. So yeah, again, we hand them over, and when the docs and everyone else are clear, they hand them back to us.
And Robbie, that was just a knock to his shoulder, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yes. Has he had scans? Are you aware?
I haven't seen any scan results. Again, we get these players when fit and ready to go, handed back to us, and we back all our staff in to get that job done.
What do you have about Hamish Hartlett? Didn't play on the weekend, obviously with a hamstring. Where's he looking at availability-wise for this week?
Yeah, so his plan at this point, again, only being Monday, is that he suits up for the Magpies this week. It was just a small hiccup, bit of awareness with his history and where we want to take him into the future. We just thought, again, he needed to sit out for another week and rebuild.
Matty Broadbent, a couple of decent games back in the SANFL. How close is he to joining your defensive group in the AFL?
Yeah, really close. He was unlucky to suffer a little bit of hamstring stuff out here sort of midweek when he was right in the frame. At that point in time, he's had to go back and put two good ones together. So no, as soon as he's physically ready, he'll get a look in. He's still spoken about really highly at Match Committee Weekly. So yeah, looking forward to him returning for sure.
Is he physically ready now after week 2?
I think condition-wise he'd be very, very close. Certainly injury-wise, no problem at all. But again, you talk about him joining a defensive group, high intellect, great defensive acumen, huge leader for us. So yeah, we're looking forward to him rejoining.
And how close is Jake Tringo? I know it's hard to get into midfield at the moment, but he's had 44 and 42 touches 2 weeks in a row. Is he knocking the door down?
He is. He's part of lots of conversations, which is a great thing for him. If we'd sort of looked at him pre-season and where would his availability and would he be knocking the door down this early in the season, I'm not too sure what the answer would have been, but he can't do any more.
What happens to a player like that who we've seen him at Port come into the AFL and he doesn't play in the midfield? He goes back to the SANFL and dominates there. Maybe he can play that other role in the AFL side, but obviously his best position is a pure midfielder. Do you have to make a place for him in the midfield, or you have to go, you're that good in form, but we have to put you on the half-back line? Yeah,
I think one thing that we've been really clear about is how flexible we want our players to be. It was part of their values when we came together and set a path for this year. And I think what we do really well is we give guys opportunities to fulfil those roles when they come up better than we ever have. So I think for Jack to come up, and if he was lucky enough to be selected and resurface on a half-back flank or predominantly forward, wouldn't give him or us the best chance of that being a success. So look, if there is a position that looks like it's going to pop up forward, we'll make sure that he's fully prepared and he goes and spends some minutes at SANFL level there.
Are you preparing to play with one ruckman this weekend?
Not at this stage, we're not. Probably in my position, we just want to deal with the facts and we'll just wait and see. We don't want to get too far ahead and start planning for that, but clearly that's out of our hands right now.
So, I mean, obviously there's a contingency there. I mean, Paddy would just slot straight back in, and given Richmond's tendency to only play man curves, you could probably just put Paddy back up and reshuffle your forward line.
Look, I think the game's in a really, really interesting point where just about every team's sort of wrestling with their own battles around height and structure and makeup. There's teams that are adamant that 2 ruckmen is the way to go, and then there's teams that are hell-bent on trying to get it done with 1. So, and Richmond being one of those. And look, I'm sure they come up against teams that have got 2 and it causes them plenty of headaches. So we've preferred to go down the 2 ruckman option because they're 2 quality players that can both play forward.
And Monty, sorry, I'm not sure if you finished that or not. Sorry if you were.
Not first, that is it.
Jared Leonard, is he encouraging return to him in the sample last week?
Yeah, it was. I haven't had a chance to get across it visually. I've obviously read the reports and from all reports from Trent Henschel and Matty Loken, it was a pretty solid game. Yeah, but again, he's another one of those guys that fit and ready, up for selection. He'll make us better when he gets his chance.
What about Connor Rosie? 21 touches, 5 goals. Have you seen a better game from a third game player?
Not that I can remember, but I don't think anyone, you guys included, were surprised. It's been coming. We know the obvious talents. I think one thing he's done that he hasn't had a lot of credit for, he's been super clean when it's been either wet or dewy. He's probably looked at another level in that part of the game. And our players were really, they found the going pretty tough up at the Gabba for ball handling. He didn't. So yeah, no surprises for us. He was outstanding.
It's pretty exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And look, I think the 3 or 4 sort of first year or debutants that have come in have all had their moments. He just had a 4-quarter performance this week that was off the charts.
I know he had 21 touches and obviously 5 goals was fantastic, but coming through the system, he was a sort of bloke who probably didn't need to have 25 or 26 touches. He could have 15 and still make just as big an impact because of what he does with it. Is that a fair call? Yeah,
quality of touch, timing. We're really happy with his 8 or 9 possession games to date, just for his involvements. Really smart play, takes a lot of work to defend, which can obviously create opportunities for others. We had a discussion about him last week about possibility of spending more time on a wing or inside. So look, these are high level conversations for a first year player. I don't see any boundaries there with that talent.
You're seeing a lot of clean players in the past. You played with a few. Is he right up there?
Yeah, absolutely right up there. Ground level, in the air. It was a really complete performance on the weekend.
Were you happy with your backline last week, Monty?
I think we got off to a slowish start. The scoreboard would suggest that. But from that point, probably the 20-minute mark onwards, I thought they were outstanding. Really well led by TJ, and I think it was a real even contribution as well. What I would say is our team defence, for the most part of that game, was really able to impact the way Brisbane wanted to play, and I think assisted our backline accordingly.
Richmond obviously missing a few Rance, Rewalt, probably Cochin, maybe Martin as well. Can you hope to exploit that, or how do you do that?
Haven't given it a lot of thought. Again, what will be in terms of those guys, who plays, who doesn't. Sometimes that's the devil you know. There'll be a lot of unknown if those guys aren't there. I know there was some sort of stats floating around about when was the last time that Rance and Rewalt didn't play in the same team. Well, I mean, I can't imagine there was a game in the last sort of 7 or 8 years where 3 or 4 of them didn't play in the same team. So we'll just wait and see what happens and then make some plans off the back of that.
Is it dangerous without them? You say like the devil you know. Like what makes them dangerous if they're not there?
Look, I think it can be. I think their pressure game, regardless of who suits up for them, is high level. They're still trying to get that exactly where they need it, and probably haven't hit the highs in the first 3 games that they would have liked. So, yeah, obviously it's easy to plan when the stars are in there, but we won't take any shortcuts regardless.
What's the mood like? Sorry, Brenny. Just like coming off the loss, I mean, Brisbane kicked 4 in a row, sort of pinched the game at the end.
Yeah.
Boys flat, or is it just sort of? How would you describe the mood?
Yeah, I think initially they were flat on the missed opportunities. I think when you're sort of 10 points up, playing against a team that's pretty hot at the moment, away from home with our team, we did enough right to be reasonably buoyant. Again, in that second quarter, kicking 2-7, and then late making quite a few composure errors with the ball, is enough for the guys to be quite disappointed. But I think that once that was able to subside, everyone was pretty upbeat about what we were able to do and where we're trying to get to.
I think Dan Houston got a pretty nasty knock to the ribs. He all right?
Yeah, he's fine. I was really, really pleased with the way he bounced back. It was a good hit, nice, fair, tough hit, but within a couple of minutes he bounced back and played some good footy.
Just one from the Chiefs. Just 9 touches for Willem Drew. Was his role maybe a bit affected by Ollie's return?
Look, it's a good question. I think he was one of the players that we gave some responsibility to around Neil at times. You know, it certainly didn't fall just to him, but he was to play his part in that. Yeah, maybe something to do with Ollie. Look, to be honest, I really couldn't tell you categorically. It wasn't his best day. I think he's been outstanding to this point again. So, yeah, I wouldn't look too far into it from 1 week.
How do you review a sort of a tagging role if you put some attention into someone like that and he still gets off the chain? How do you sort of review?
Yeah,
that?
look, I wouldn't. The way we went about it, I wouldn't deem it a tagging role. I think we went about trying to make sure we were able to limit his influence. We clearly couldn't do that. He ran the 4 quarters out. He had a big impact in the last quarter. Yeah, so look, from balancing it all up, you'd have to say that what we didn't quite get it done. But what I would say is what we were able to do the other way was, again, to have us 10 points up with only a few minutes to go would have been reasonable.
Just ask one more on the sort of goal kicking and taking most of your opportunities. It's been a common theme for this club in the past few years, missing a few shots in front of goal. What can you do about it?
I'm not sure, and I'm not sure. I didn't know it had been an issue in the past. It's not something I really concern myself with. But look, I think you see most clubs go up and down in this part of the game. What I did see on the weekend is some shots that some very good players would normally make. So I'd back him to make them next time.
How's Jack Watts?
Yeah, pretty good. Jack's spirit is infectious, and we're going to miss him being around here. So we'll get him back as soon as we can. He was optimistic straight off the back of the injury. He obviously knows the significance of it. Yeah, he's a real spiritual leader around this place, and yeah, as soon as he gets back in the 4 walls, we'll be happier for that. I think that he's most happy about right now is to be back playing golf in about 6 or 7 weeks, and it'll keep him sane.
Is that season over for Monty? I know initially maybe Steve said it wasn't, but it sounds as though it's a long way back.
He'd be a long way back, but that's certainly not how he or the surgeons or his specialists are looking at it. No, I think with his mindset and the way he approaches his training and everything else that goes around with it, no, he's really optimistic for a return. Yep.
Thanks, Monty.
All right. Thanks.